On January 31st, The Weeknd released his 6th studio album, Hurry Up Tomorrow, and in addition to being his 6th, it will also be his last, at least under the name The Weeknd. His meteoric rise to fame, from being just a kid roaming the streets of Toronto to becoming one of the greatest artists of our time, is nothing short of remarkable. He started out as an urban legend, but now has become the stuff of legend. A legend that became larger than life, but even so, it is a legend that the man, Abel Tesfaye, has now outgrown. And starting this week, it is this legend that we'll be talking about. Initially, I was just going to make a video on the new album Hurry Up Tomorrow as a completion of my coverage on his new trilogy. But in honor of this being The Weeknd's final album, I wanted to do something different and I think a little more special. And so starting today, we will be looking back on the life and the career of The Weeknd from the original trilogy mixtapes to this new trilogy. And as a result, I will be recovering the albums After Hours and Dawn FM, but I think that it is a great opportunity for me to kind of revisit and redo some of my commentary on those last videos. Because I've learned a lot since then, both in regards to his music and the person of The Weeknd, as well as being a content creator and how to present that information. And so I'll be using this opportunity to redo my coverage of After Hours and Dawn FM in a way that I think will be better than the originals. And once we get to this new trilogy, I will do a separate video covering the music videos and the short films and interludes and such that came with this new trilogy, because while they thematically relate to the albums they're a part of, they follow a separate but still cohesive continuity. And so for those who are curious, when we get to that, there will be a separate video covering the music videos from these albums. And personally, I'm very excited to get started, but first, I should probably put this discretion here right off the bat, because The Weeknd's music, while catchy, does delve into some very dark themes. Themes like manipulation, drug use, self-buy, other people buy. And so if you're not comfortable with hearing about anything relating to those kinds of topics or themes today, then this video, and by extension this series, may not be what you're looking for. I'm sorry about that, but I promise that this story is worth it. Because we're going to be talking about a lot of dark subjects, but I think that ultimately it's worth it because of where we arrive at the end. Nevertheless, I totally understand if you just don't want to hear about any of these things. I completely understand. This video and this series may not be for you then. But now join me as we look back on the unprecedented life and career of The Weeknd, beginning with his early life and, of course, the House of Balloons mixtape.
And it's a story I've been trying to tell for some time now, except for the small detail that YouTube and UMG hate me. This video has been in copyright review hell for about 2 weeks now, and you can tell because my hair is a lot longer than it was in the video. I have done several re-edits to the video, but ultimately I submitted a dispute to UMG and they're just not getting back to me. So if you're seeing this version of the video that has this message in it, that means I finally found a way to get this video out. Because videos like this absolutely do fall under fair use, the problem is YouTube's Content ID doesn't see it that way, and then UMG just has absolutely no prerogative to actually review my video. But this series has waited long enough to start coming out, so I'm gonna do my best to get this published and ready for you all. So hopefully if you're seeing this, I managed to finally sneak this video out here for you all, and I hope you enjoy. And because it wouldn't be a proper YouTube video if I didn't promote myself a little bit, this video was available a couple days early to all of the good folks on Patreon. If you are a producer level patron or up, then you got early ad-free access to this very video that you are watching right now. And if you're interested in getting a sneak peek at these videos ahead of time, then consider joining the Patreon.
Now, the story of The Weeknd, of course, begins with the man himself, Abel Tesfaye. Now, Abel was born in Toronto, Canada, to 2 Ethiopian immigrants who fled to Canada to escape the genocide occurring in Ethiopia at the time. But when he was an infant, his father left him and his mother in order to pursue a relationship with another woman. His father was still at least somewhat in his life until he was not quite a teenager, but by then he already had a new wife and a new family and left Abel and his mother entirely. Abel attended a French immersion school before being enrolled in 2 different high schools in the Scarborough district. But at the age of 17, he dropped out of school and moved into an apartment with 2 of his friends, one of whom was Lamar Taylor, who would go on to be The Weeknd's creative director, as well as the co-founder of his record label. But we'll get to that in a second. The name The Weeknd comes from the fact that he left one day on a weekend and never looked back. And the moniker was spelt without an E in order to not be confused with a pop rock band in Toronto at the time that also went by The Weeknd. And it is during this time in his life when the darker aspects of Abel's personality began to emerge. The elements that would become the root for his artistic ethos moving forward. He began living the party lifestyle of constant house parties, frequent drug use, and a toxic love, to put it gently, but we'll get to that. I try and keep it relatively PG on this channel, but there was nothing PG about this stage in The Weeknd's life. During this time, he experienced frequent homelessness, was arrested several times, and was constantly taking drugs like ketamine, cocaine, MDMA, magic mushrooms, and cough syrup. It is this lifestyle that became the early inspiration for his music, as well as the persona of The Weeknd as a whole.
Weeknd, baby. Weeknd. You don't know what's in store. Don't know what you're here for.
And in 2009, he began recording and publishing his songs anonymously on YouTube. But these songs initially didn't receive much traction. That is until the year 2010, when he met producer Jeremy Rose at a party. And after hearing Abel freestyle, he invited him to collaborate on this dark R&B project that he was working on. The two would later part ways over creative differences, but Abel took the 3 tracks that they produced together and posted them online, where they began to receive some attention. These projects were What You Need, Loft Music, and The Morning. These 3 tracks became the first examples of what would become The Weeknd's artistic ethos. I feel like I've said the words artistic ethos a lot in this video, and I have not been recording for long. Combining his incredible falsetto vocals, dark R&B production, and blink and you miss him lyrics that paint The Weeknd as a man of vice and wickedness. It is these tracks that attracted the attention of a fellow rising artist in Toronto, just one who was a few steps more ahead in his career. These tracks received praise from Canadian rapper Drake on his OVO blog, which, to get it out of the way, but this initial shout out from Drake did launch Abel's music to a far wider audience. And their careers will intersect a couple more times before I can finally stop talking about it. And then in 2011, both he, Lamar Taylor, and 2 music executives co-founded the record label XO. And at the age of 21, he released the House of Balloons mixtape. This mixtape included the 3 tracks that initially got him this much attention, as well as other tracks that have now become cult classics. And at this point, so early on in his career, most people who listened to the music or heard it didn't even know who or what The Weeknd was. They didn't know if he was a single singer or a band. They didn't even know what he looked like. But the House of Balloons mixtape painted the picture of The Weeknd as a kind of wraith who roamed the streets of Toronto. A wraith with the voice of an angel, but the vices of a devil. And this mixtape set the precedent for The Weeknd's sound as well as his themes. This was a man who used the alternative R&B sound and sang with very sweet vocals, but his lyrics contained a raw darkness that made him stand out from the rest. This duality is even present in the name of his record label, XO, a shorthand that usually means kisses and hugs, but in the context of The Weeknd could also refer to ecstasy and OxyContin. And this mixtape as a whole documents the lifestyle that The Weeknd was living as told from his perspective. And in my next installment of this series, we'll be talking about his lifestyle from the perspective of someone else, but for now, this House of Balloons project is from his perspective. It documents the events of a woman being introduced to the Weeknd's life of drugs and partying, eventually losing herself to it. And the opening track sets the tone out the gate.
You don't know what's in store.
The opening lines even are a double entendre. The track overall is about the Weeknd introducing this woman to a lifestyle of frequent drug use. And these lines could be seen as him preparing her for what she's about to see. But it could also be seen as him talking to whoever might listen to this mixtape. They are not prepared for what they're about to hear.
Hold tight for this ride.
And so he tells this woman to take drugs because whatever she's about to witness during the night, she will not want to be sober for. And so he walks her through it, promising that he'll be by her side through all of it.
Take a glass. Don't be scared.
And in the second verse, the drugs have fully taken hold of both of them, and he continues to walk her through it as they get a little more comfortable. And thus begins this woman's time in the House of Balloons, beginning with the next track, one of the original 3 tracks that was produced for this mixtape. As it turns out, the Weeknd had convinced this woman to leave her man in order to be with him for the night. And this track kind of documents their time together.
I just wanna take you there.
The production combined with his distant vocals create this drug-filled haze that they are both experiencing at this point in the night. And now that they're alone together, they start to, well, he promises to give this woman exactly what she's been missing from her other man. And as they're there together, she starts to lose herself. She's becoming accustomed to this life that he lives. It started out with her having never done drugs before, but now she's doing a whole bunch of stuff that she never would have dreamed of doing. And if it were any other artist, this track would probably have themes of falling in love together, or kind of showcasing the closeness between these two. But this is the Weeknd we're talking about, and he makes that distinction very clear. Rather than the two of them becoming closer together in this moment, he sings of it as more of that she is losing her humanity to be with a man who lost his so long ago. It's not a romantic encounter or even a rebellious foray into the party lifestyle, it's a deal with the devil. And this idea is also really embodied in the next track. At this point, she has fully succumbed to this world that the Weeknd lives in. She's so far gone off the drugs that she can't even recognize him. And he sings about having fun partying, taking substances, and being surrounded by all these women, but the sinister production paint his actions as nothing short of evil. And in that way, the production almost serves as the guilty conscience to the actions that he's committing. He's singing about how he's carefree and having so much fun, but the production is really down to earth and feels like a horror movie. He's inviting these women into his world, but once they're there, they can never leave. And in the chorus, he emphasizes that this is a happy house, but the constant repetition of that idea makes it feel very sinister. This may be fun to him, but this life will kill you, and he even admits as much. And it is then that we transition into the second part of this track, Glass Table Girls. In it, he talks about bringing out the 707, which could have several meanings. It could be a reference to a Boeing 707, which is a round glass table made by Boeing that him and his friends might be using to do drugs off of. And in that context, these glass table girls are likely a reference to the women that are there with them taking these drugs. And it could also be referring to the drum patch that they used when making this. 707 is also a chemical shorthand for glass cleaner, which they may be using to clean these glass tables after doing said drugs. So really, any way you slice it, drugs are involved. And so he starts spitting these braggadocious raps over a sinister production, rapping about all the drugs and the sex that goes on in the house when they bring out the tables.
All glass and it's 4 feet wide, but it's a must to get us 10 feet high.
And he talks about how even when he's on the drugs, he never goes crazy because he's so used to the high at this point, even at the age of 21. And then the next track, is by all appearances an honest look at The Weeknd and his mental state, as well as his mission statement as an artist. It's an honest look at the life he was living, surrounded by drugs and women, all while pursuing fame through music. He talks about this life of partying that doesn't stop even when the night is over, a partying that results in noise complaints from the neighbors. And he also emphasizes that his mission is to one day make it to California.
Order plane tickets, Cali is the mission.
In other words, he wants to become famous one day through music. He sees California as his calling, and as we know now, one day that dream would come true. It is at this point in the album that this woman that he introduced to the life kind of fades into the background as he focuses his attention to others. Specifically in this track, we see the picture of him throwing money at private dancers as they do their thing. And this idea is continued in the next track, and arguably one of the most popular off of this mixtape. And while he still maintains the same toxic persona in this track, he does shed a little bit of a layer of vulnerability, as even in some small way, he explains to us why he is the way that he is. He admits in the opening lines of this track that he has been lying to his partner, presumably the woman that he introduced to the house at the beginning of this mixtape. He sees himself as someone who can't be tied down. He introduces a woman into his lifestyle, takes what he wants from them, and then moves on to the next. And so they're still technically together, but he is here throwing money at dancers, not even giving a second thought to her. And so he sings about how both him and this dancer bring their own form of brokenness to the table in this moment. And so he asks this woman to do her thing and give him the confidence that he feels that he lacks.
Give me confidence, I need confidence in myself.
This is the first moment of true admission from The Weeknd in this mixtape. He battles with low self-esteem, and so he tries to distract himself from that with the drugs and the women that he surrounds himself with in this lifestyle. He tells this woman to lie and say that she loves him because it's just what he needs right now.
So tell me you love me, only for tonight.
And the scene fades away as he watches this woman do her dance, hoping that she can give him something that he lacks, even if it's a lie. And this was the origin story of The Weeknd making music for people who genuinely believe that the stripper loves them back. The next track is another two-parter. In it, The Weeknd spots a new woman at this party, and based on the way she carries herself, she is clearly not new to this lifestyle that he lives.
I know your thoughts, oh you bout it.
And so he comes alongside her and does his thing. It's also confirmed in this track that The Weeknd likes tall women, which I think is
hella based.
With your Louis V bag, tats on your arms, high heel shoes make you 6 feet tall.
And so they drink together, go upstairs together, and yeah, this half of the track is the party. But of course afterwards comes the after party. And in this latter half, while he is still high out of his mind, he is coming off of the events of that night.
I think I'm fucking gone, rolling on this floor.
He's on a ton of drugs at this point, but still taking more. And as he rolls on the floor, too far gone to even be cognizant of anything around him, he brags about how he's never felt better and how he has everything he's ever wanted in his life right in front of him. He has this new woman now, who he darkly makes the comment about, saying that she'll probably die of an overdose before she ever gets to meet his mother. And then the rest of the song goes into graphic detail on her specific talent, so viewer discretion when listening to The Weeknd's old mixtapes. But the next track is the true after party, the crash after the high that has lasted so long at this point. Because, as anyone who's either studied or taken drugs will tell you, they overload your brain with serotonin, but once the drugs wear off, you are left feeling extremely depressed. And that's the state he finds himself in, surrounded by partygoers that he doesn't know, coming off of his high. And this, combined with the withdrawals, make him feel... And only now that he's sober does he finally think of the woman that he left at home to come here and do his thing. The woman that he betrayed by relapsing into drugs and partying with other women.
I guess that I could only say one thing. Girl, I've been bad again.
He knows that he messed up, acknowledging that he tried to distract himself from his own personal failings with drugs, which caused him to do things that he would normally not do when he was sober. It's not really said as a defense for his actions, that's just how he's always been. And now that clarity is setting in, he calls her, hoping to receive some sort of comfort or forgiveness for his actions.
When I'm faded, I forget what you mean to me.
In this melancholic haze, he realizes that at the end of the day, the only thing he ever wanted was this woman that he betrayed. He tried his best to quit for her, but his addictions run too deep at this point. Ultimately, he only ever lied to two people, her and him. He lied to her saying that he would change, and he lied to himself saying that he could change. And so he calls her, hoping to receive some sort of forgiveness for the horrible things he's done to her. And we get a response in the form of a sample. This sample is voice actor Ayako Kawasumi from the anime Fate Stay Night. And while the anime is of course unrelated, the message that she says does pertain to The Weeknd in this moment, because it is this woman's response to his confession. When translated, the sample says this: "I wish you would not trouble me. What you are doing makes me uncomfortable. You are cowardly, Shiru." I assume that Shiru is a character in this anime. I haven't seen it. "You learned about my past and used that against me several times, even when you know my answer, even though you know my sins." And as the sounds of her crying fade into the background, The Weeknd echoes his confession. And so at the end of this track, with no one else in his life left to care about him, he dives right back in. The next track is a downward spiral into depravity and drug use with a new woman. He's looking for a new distraction and he finds it in her. And so he introduces her to his life, his crew, and his habits. And The Weeknd's rapping in this song sounds very carefree, but the lyrical content depicts him descending further and further into madness. More than a distraction, he's starting to lose himself, and he's dragging this woman down with him. And as he sinks lower and lower, his mood, at least on the surface, climbs higher and higher. And in the final track, The Weeknd assures the audience, as well as the people in his life, that he has absolutely no plans on finding atonement for his sins. He knows that his woman is cheating on him, but it's okay because he's doing the exact same thing. She did this in order to try and hurt him, but he feels nothing at this point. He's too numb to feel anything, and not just from the drugs. This lifestyle that he's living is chipping away slowly and slowly at his soul.
I know everything.
And this is how the original mixtape ended, but subsequent releases of The House of Balloons included the bonus track 28. And the title itself is a double entendre. Firstly, the fact that this track was released as part of the Trilogy album and was his 28th track ever released. But it's also titled after the fact that there are 28 grams in an ounce, which don't do drugs, but if you do drugs, that's very important information to know. And in the track itself, he sings about a woman who is making herself at home in his house, not realizing that she's overstaying her welcome.
This house is not a home to you.
He only invited her over for the night, but she clearly believes that there's something more to it. And so he regrets letting this woman into his house because now he can't seem to get rid of her. Which is a horrible mentality, by the way. This whole album is a horrible mentality. I'm just talking about what's there. And while he is, of course, talking about a woman, this track could also have a double meaning. And that is the newfound attention that he received from his music. Because it is important to note that while this is a bonus track for the House of Balloons mixtape, it was only released when the Trilogy album was assembled and released, which of course came after his 3 mixtapes received widespread attention, and he was slowly beginning to get attention from the mainstream. And so while he's singing about his discomfort with this woman being in his house uninvited, he's also singing about the discomfort that he feels receiving all this attention from new fans. He loved music and how it gave voice to the turbulent state of mind that he was living in, but as he gained more mainstream attention, his life became anything but low-key. And while his goal was always to get to California and get famous, now that he's starting on that path, he has no idea what to do with the attention and the spotlight he's now placed under. And it's that idea that's given voice in the track 28. And so he asked this woman why she told her friends about him and the things that he does for her. Because now his phone is constantly blowing up, never giving him a moment of peace. Which could also be a reference to his core fans introducing new people to his music. The Weeknd began as an underground artist with a very underground sound. But despite that, the mainstream began to call to him. Record deal offers, feature requests, big things that he could no longer ignore. This was all down the road for the Weeknd after the 3 mixtapes had been made. But in the meantime, after releasing the House of Balloons mixtape, he did receive a lot of traction for the unprecedented sound and lyrical content that he brought to this album, to this mixtape. And the same year that he dropped House of Balloons, the Weeknd had his first concert at the Mod Club Theatre in Toronto. He would also then perform at a concert hosted by the Black Student Association at the University of Toronto, as well as performing at OVO Fest hosted by Canadian actor Aubrey Graham. And we'll see more of this character in the next installment. The House of Balloons was the mixtape that started it all. The mixtape that introduced us for the very first time to the character of the Weeknd. And it laid the groundwork for the themes of his character as well as the themes of his music going forward. And this mixtape told songs about partying, drugs, and sex, but with a malicious twist. Some artists glamorized this very lifestyle in their music, but the Weeknd painted his life as more akin to a horror movie, and himself as the antagonist. This cold-blooded monster who would lure women into the house with parties and drugs, take exactly what he wanted from them, and then move on to the next. And I spend a lot of time on that point for a couple of reasons. One, because it's very important to understand who the Weeknd started out as in order to fully appreciate who he would become at the end. And also because the next chapter in this story, Thursday, is all about the Weeknd's manipulative tactics, and more importantly, their consequences. Because in our next installment, Thursday, we explore the life and the vices of the Weeknd, but told through the perspective of one of his victims. But for now, this has been the start of my series on the life of the Weeknd, beginning with the House of Balloons. And I hope that you've enjoyed, and I hope that you're excited for the next installment as well as the series as a whole. My plan is to release a video talking about each album individually, and then of course the music videos of the new trilogy like I said. And then once the entire series is wrapped up, I'll probably combine them into one long video and also upload that to the channel. And so I hope that you're excited for that, and thank you so much for watching this video.
This is a series that I am very excited about, but unfortunately is going to have to wait a couple weeks at least, because I wanted to get this video up a lot sooner, as I said at the beginning of this video, but copyright issues, this took a lot longer to get out. And now I am about to be going on vacation for a couple weeks visiting some family, which I'm very excited about, but it unfortunately means I won't be able to film the next installation of this series for a little bit yet. However, this vacation time will give me the perfect opportunity to really just get into writing the scripts for those videos. So get excited for those. They will just take a little bit of time because, like I said, I'm gonna be away. But thank you so much for enjoying this first episode, and I hope that you're looking forward to the rest of this series. And in other news, the channel has surpassed 8,000 subscribers. Thank you all so much. Welcome to the channel. There are now more of you than there are people in my town, which is insane to think about. But thank you all so much, and I hope that you continue to enjoy the videos that I make going forward.
And of course, a huge shout out goes to my patrons, Sean, Happy the Knife, and my top tier patrons, RD and Snowy.
Also, user Bottomless Potamus, who joined the Patreon while I was editing this video. Thank you so much, and I hope that you enjoy your stay here.
Thank you so much for continuing to support me in making these videos for you all and supporting my dream of maybe one day doing this full time for you all. And in other channel news, my Portrait of God video has been popping off lately. For those who don't know, I did a video over a year ago for Halloween documenting the short film Portrait of God on YouTube. And for some reason, the algorithm just decided a couple weeks ago or a week and a half ago to just really start pushing that video. And so as of recording this video, it has gone to 129,000 views. For reference, I'm pretty sure it was sitting at like 2,000 to 4,000 views a week and a half ago. And so thank you all for really enjoying that video and enjoying my coverage of that short film. And if you really like what I did in that video, then I think you'll really love the video that I did this past Halloween. It is a nearly 4-hour video talking about my theories and the story of the Mandela catalog, and personally I think it's one of the best videos I've made so far. And of course, I will continue to be making Screen Factor episodes. I haven't forgotten about that series. Once I have enough news coming out about upcoming movies that I really want to share with you all, then I will of course be making another installment of Screen Factor. And for those who don't know, Screen Factor is a series I started this year where I talk about news coming out of the film industry, mainly about upcoming projects and the production process behind these projects, not really focusing on celebrity drama, for lack of a better word, because truth be told, I'm not really that interested in that. I just like talking about movies that I think are going to be very exciting. In particular, I'm very excited for Christopher Nolan's adaptation of The Odyssey, and in preparation for it, I got this really nice copy of The Odyssey that I fully intend on reading and talking to you all about before the movie comes out. It's got really nice illustrations and everything. It's really cool. You can see them on the shelf, but I bought this and a bunch of other books that have really nice binding on them. I don't know, I like how they look. And so thank you all so much for watching, and I will see you soon for the next installment of this series. I hope that you're excited for that because I know that I am. And cut.